Welcome to Roots and Branches of Lehi, the podcast where we get to know the faces, stories, and lives that make up our community. I'm Ryan Harding, and I started this podcast as a way for us all to connect with the people we live alongside. Growing up in a small town, I learned that connections go beyond blood. They're built through shared experiences, friendships, and the moments we celebrate together. Each week, we'll sit down with someone new from Lehi to share their unique story, their passions, and what they love most about living here. So whether you've been here for years or just arrived, join us as we deepen our roots and reach out to our branches one story at a time. Welcome, Melissa Everett, to Roots and Branches of Lehi. Happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Yes, we're going to get to know you a little bit, and also you play a good role in BYU Pathways, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get into that part, talk to me about you. So you grew up not here in Lehi. I know you a little bit. So
that is correct.
So Wyoming, if I remember right. Okay, go ahead and tell me your background here.
I grew up in Utah and Idaho.
Okay.
But most of my years were spent in Wyoming. Okay. And then when I graduated, I could not get out of there fast enough.
Sure, yeah.
And anyway, I spent a year as a foreign exchange student in Italy.
Okay.
And did schooling at Rick's. Okay. And then once I went to BYU, I've pretty much been here in Utah ever since.
Okay. And tell me what you studied then in college.
I studied health promotion, so like health and fitness.
Okay. And so then tell me the transition, because I know you've been teaching, because you teach at BYU-Idaho.
I have taught. That's the gateway that got me into where I am now.
Okay.
So I'll tell you the story.
Give me the background. Yeah.
My background was health and fitness, and my first job was in worksite health.
Okay.
After I'd done that for a few years, I transitioned to working at the Utah Health Department in cancer control.
Okay.
And then I had my first kid and decided, I actually want to stay home and take care of my children.
Yeah.
And so I transitioned. I had been working as an adjunct professor at not BYU-Idaho yet, at Salt Lake Community College.
Okay.
And so I quit my full-time job and told my boss at Salt Lake Community College, hey, just load me up with adjunct teaching. And so that's what I did all through having kids and everything. So then around, I don't even remember what year it was, but at some point, Salt Lake Community College started offering more online classes.
Okay.
And eventually I started teaching an online nutrition class for them. And around 2009, BYU-Idaho reached out to me because I had attended there. And I'm guessing they also had records from BYU that I had graduated.
Yeah.
And said, hey, we realize that you have a degree and we're starting these online classes. Would you be interested in applying? Oh. And I thought, sure, whatever. Sure. So I applied, not really thinking much of it, but within 6 weeks I'd been hired and was part of the first real official group of online instructors.
Okay.
They did have some who had been previous campus instructors who had been teaching online classes.
Sure.
But this was the first time they had hired people directly to be online. And there were about 30 of us. So this was...
Because that's all you taught. There was never any class. You never went on campus or anything like that. It was
I never
purely
taught.
Online, like you said.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. At BYU-Idaho, I'd never taught in a campus environment.
Yeah.
I had done that at the community college, but not at BYU-Idaho. I helped with developing this nutrition course, and that fall of 2009, when I started teaching, I heard about this new program they were starting called Pathways. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Sure.
And when they told me that basically they were starting with two locations at the time, 2 or 3, and a really small cohort of students, but that it was a preparatory program to prepare students who never thought they would obtain higher education, and to then prepare them to take online higher ed courses.
Yeah.
And when I first remember hearing about that, I just got goosebumps because I had served an LDS mission in Italy, where I'd also been an exchange student.
Yeah.
And it made me so excited to think about these people I love so much.
Yeah.
Getting to have the same opportunity, a similar opportunity, I should say, to have a church-based education that I did.
Yeah.
And so that was just really exciting, but I consider myself having grown up alongside the Pathway program.
Yeah.
So you might notice I said pathways, and now I say pathway.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
So originally they were called Pathways.
Okay.
And they, at some point, I don't remember when, they dropped the S.
Okay.
And they have been fighting against that ever since.
Sure. Hard to change name.
Yeah, it is. It's tough to fight that branding. But yes, now it is BYU Pathway Worldwide.
Okay.
But through the course of many years, I taught as an adjunct at BYU-Idaho for 7 years. And then in 2016, there was a remote online instructor manager position that opened up, and I had various adjunct leadership positions over the years.
Sure.
And I had found that I really liked the administrative side of things.
Yeah.
And I threw my hat in the ring for this full-time job, even though it was sooner than I wanted to work full-time again.
Sure.
Because my youngest was still in grade school, and I would have preferred to wait until at least junior high or even high school, until everybody was driving. I think my goal was at least have one driver, but I didn't have a driver yet at the house. As far as
make it easier to get people to their activities if you have another driver.
Exactly.
For sure.
So we didn't have a driver yet, but
life doesn't always work out like we want.
No, it doesn't. But one thing I had learned in just observing this whole so at this point, Pathway had started at BYU-Idaho, part of BYU-Idaho.
Yeah.
And they, at one time, had hired 5 full-time faculty in the kind of BYU-Idaho online realm.
Sure.
And then from the point they hired them until they brought them to campus for their first training, I think we had a president change.
Okay.
And in that period of time, by the time they came their first time, they were told, we're not going with this model anymore. We're going to honor your employment, but we won't be hiring any more full-time remote faculty. Okay. So some of those people are still with us, and others have just petered out through attrition and found other things. But so I'd seen that happen, and I thought I better throw my hat in the ring now, because you never know if they'll offer another remote position again.
Yeah, sure.
So I did, got the job, cried for a couple of days, and then accepted it, and it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's pretty great to be able to work from home and be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
At least all my kids were in school, so there was good life balance that way. A little tough in the summers.
Sure.
But
and you've been doing, so you were at BYU-Idaho teaching from when to when, and then when did you start BYU Pathway then?
Okay, so I was taught as an adjunct from 2009 to 2016.
Okay.
And then in July of 2016 is when I started full-time as an instructor manager. Okay. And then I done that through all the years. In 2017 is when BYU Pathway, it was announced that it would become its own church institution,
kind of
its own
separate entity, right?
Yeah, church educational system school.
Okay.
And that's when they carved themselves out of BYU-Idaho and moved down to Salt Lake.
Oh, okay.
And they're now in the Triad Center right next to Ensign College.
Okay, so it's no longer part of BYU-Idaho anymore then?
No, they are not part of BYU-Idaho. We are now partnered together with, now we are BYU Pathway Worldwide.
Okay.
And BYU-Idaho and Ensign College, and we're all 3 partnered together.
Okay.
There are also partnerships with BYU Hawaii, where it's like there's like little fingers in all different parts of church education. Seminaries and institutes are now very heavily involved.
Sure.
All of our religious education is taken care of by service missionaries.
Oh, okay.
And that's a relatively new thing. We're only a year and a half or so into that.
Yeah.
But previously that was taken care of by religion faculty.
Sure. So you've really grown up with the program.
Very much, yes.
Since the really kind of the start of it, really.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk to me about that. I guess what just from the 30,000 foot view, like how has that been just from just seeing it progress and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's really been very exciting and cool and very interesting to observe, because initially the plan was, let's offer everything that BYU-Idaho offers.
Sure.
And so we had 2,000 instructors and, 300 courses.
Yeah.
It was really big, and our growth was just like, we
Yeah.
were bringing on, I remember some semesters, like we were training 300 instructors.
Yeah.
And it was just intense,
Yeah.
intensive growth that way. And then I think when BYU Pathway became its own entity, I think then President Gilbert was in charge. Now Elder Gilbert.
Yeah.
I think they made more of a strategic decision to scale back and really decide these are the things we do and these are the things we don't do. And scaled back to only having certain degrees, and then BYU-Idaho is providing their degrees
Sure.
in online programs. And then in 2025, so start of last year, we further decoupled from BYU-Idaho
Okay.
by completely separating all of our systems.
Okay.
And that was a really challenging year last year.
Sure.
Where we implemented a whole new student information system and combined 3 major databases, which resulted in a lot of corrupt data and challenges for students. It was all in an effort to simplify things for students in the long term and make us more scalable
Sure.
long term. But it resulted in a pretty challenging year.
So short-term problems, but long-term gains, but a lot of
Yes.
short-term
Yes.
issues and stuff to overcome.
Pretty much, I would say this whole last quarter, January, February, March, I would say the focus has just been, I'm so glad it's not a year ago.
Sure. Because it was difficult then.
Yeah. And so my job has changed a little bit in the last couple of years, where now I oversee the grading teams.
Okay.
We have changed our learning management system multiple times, weekends, holidays, just trying to take care of students. They were so dedicated to taking care of those students, just so admirable.
Yeah.
But just so hard. You can only do that so long.
Sure.
And to Pathways' credit, in about June of last year, they shifted gears on some of the innovative things they had been trying to do and went with a little more out-of-the-box registration type things.
Sure.
And that was an immediate relief that we are still transitioning. I believe our next block will be the full transition
Okay.
to that point.
Okay. So let's back up a little bit now that you've given kind of that background and
Okay.
stuff like that. Talk to me about, so if somebody listening to this, BYU Pathway, I've heard of it, give me what is BYU Pathway?
Okay.
How is that different from just going to BYU-Idaho or going to BYU Provo or going to UVU or whatever
Okay,
kind of thing?
Great question. So BYU Pathway offers, they're known in the church educational system as the access provider. BYU, like in Provo, they are known as like the flagship and the brand.
Sure.
So that's why they have the football team,
Sure,
and
yes.
we're going to have a medical school,
Yes.
and they do the research and all of those things. They are more they're world renowned.
Yeah.
And so that's very important that they're leading the way in that manner.
Sure.
BYU-Idaho is known as the teacher.
Okay.
And they are very focused on, we do have research and stuff, but it's not about getting published, and it's not instructors, or I should say professors, who are there to publish and do research. they are there to teach.
Okay.
Like they're really there because they want to teach students and really interact, which is a different model for a university. A lot of professors are more about the research and
teaching is on the side,
teaching is like what they do in order to get their
to
research.
Pay the bills, right? Yeah, to be able to justify being there. Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And college is known for being like job-ready skills.
Okay.
And very applied type things.
Okay.
And then Hawaii, BYU Hawaii, is their mission is to service the Pacific Rim, the Pacific area. And then, of course, seminaries and institutes is the religious educator.
Yeah.
And so the way all of these tie together is that BYU Pathway Worldwide is one of its major strategic priorities is that they are established anywhere the church is organized.
Okay.
Or they can be.
Sure. Should be. Sure.
Just recently, President Ashton of BYU Pathway, he announced, I think, 6 or 8 more countries that were being added.
Okay.
So I think now we're in the upper 180s of countries worldwide where students have an opportunity to access church or faith-based education through BYU Pathway Worldwide. Okay? So that's the overall structure of church educational system. So BYU Pathway has a couple of programs. One is the English Connect program that helps students gain English skills in order to either get a better job or to be able to study in English.
Yeah.
And up until about, 5 months ago, that was the only real option for entering into the next program, Pathway Connect, was you had to do it in English.
Okay.
But about 5 months ago, we started offering classes in Portuguese.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and we've been piloting that in Brazil.
Okay.
So that's pretty incredible that people would have opportunity for education in that manner. So you can see that it's a big work.
Oh, yeah.
And we're still at the start of it. So anyway, this Pathway Connect program, let's just talk in English for right now.
Sure.
But Pathway Connect is a preparatory program
Okay.
to help students gain skills to be able to be successful in a university setting, a higher education setting. And Pathway Connect is developed mainly, or Pathway in general, it's mainly a program for students who, we call them the hidden many, those who never really thought they would ever go to college or who've maybe tried and then stopped out for some reason. It was too hard or they didn't have the right support system in place. So it's just there to help those and to meet the needs of those who really are capable. They just need the right resources to get them to be successful.
Sure.
So after the Pathway Connect program, you have the opportunity to matriculate or enroll at one of the degree granting institutions, which right now those that are partnered are BYU-Idaho, Ensign College. And so you can choose one of the degrees or certificates that are offered through those schools.
And then they actually get a degree then through that program.
Yes. And so we do a couple of things that are so innovative in the field of education.
Yeah.
One thing we call certificate first.
Okay.
So like when you and I went to school, what did we do first? General education?
Yeah.
Okay, so you took your humanities class and some American heritage class and whatever. And then if you, for some reason, stopped out after 1 or 2 semesters, what do you really have to show for that?
Nothing.
Are you more employable at this point?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Some college all gets grouped, whether you went to one class or 3.5 years, it's some college.
Exactly. And what we've done is we've flipped everything.
Okay.
And so students begin immediately on a certificate of job-ready skills.
Okay.
And probably one of my favorite examples is doing one of our very first courses in a first certificate is an Excel course.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay? You learn Excel.
Yeah.
And then in some countries, just having the ability to do Excel, that sets you apart from a whole bunch of people.
Sure. You can do a lot with Excel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm big spreadsheet.
Yep, me too. Yeah,
I love the spreadsheets.
Yep.
And having those spreadsheet skills, just even from that one class, even if you didn't even finish your certificate, Excel, you could already get a better job.
So instead of just some college, now it's, no, I'm certified in Excel. I'm certified in XYZ. Okay.
I have a certificate for this, all of these, like maybe business courses or for software development or family and human services or applied health or...
So do you find then that some of these people, especially in poorer countries, maybe that's all they need and they're able to get a job, or do they keep going?
Yes.
I mean,
So this is a really interesting comment because I think for a lot of years, we didn't necessarily feel like we were successful unless our students obtained a degree.
Sure.
But many of the students are just... they're thrilled just to get a better job and not have to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet.
Sure.
And I think I can remember going to a little retreat offsite thing that they were presenting that information where they had realized that our standard of success did not necessarily have to be the degree.
Sure.
It's more about having better employability skills and being able to get a better job.
It seems a more practical way to look. A lot of times, obviously I do loans for a living, and so I see a lot of people that have high degrees and a lot of debt, and the job is not that good. Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
And so I see that all the time where it's, okay, the world told you, hey, get this degree and you'll be fine. And I would argue, sure, for some, maybe, but like a lot of times they're not making what they thought. And so now they have a lot of debt and stuff like that associated with it. And so I like the practicalness of, hey, at the end of the day, the reason we go to school is to get a job, really. When you boil it down to, I'm all about learning, stuff like that, right?
Yes.
I think that's just a lifelong thing, is we should always be learning.
Yes.
But the way I understand school is it's more like you do school so you can get a job in a field, right? And I'm not sure the degree system always accomplishes that goal, at least from my perspective, seeing a lot of people's finances over the years. That would be my take on it. So.
I think you're onto something there for sure. That, I mean, there are a lot of things to be careful of when pursuing education. And I'm not saying that the Pathway program is for everyone.
Sure.
Because especially here domestically,
Sure.
we have so many options.
We do.
And yeah, I mean, there are just so many options, especially for our youth, that are very affordable. But one thing you really want to be thinking about is that amount of debt that you're going to incur in order to obtain your education.
Yeah.
And then the degree that you're going to get with that potential debt.
Yeah.
Because, and let me just this is just a plug for, I do believe in studying things you're passionate about. However, you also need to choose something that is employable. And I'm not trying to throw any shade on Spanish, but like one of my sisters, she served a Spanish-speaking mission.
Yeah.
And she went to school and she met her husband. He was doing officer training stuff for the Army. Sure. And I think, I could be getting this wrong, but she needed to finish up her degree relatively quickly. So she went with Spanish as her major because she could do that pretty
She had enough
fast.
credits and just, sure, hack it out, yeah.
And then they moved on to his career, which so many women do.
Sure.
Many women do sacrifice because you've got to support the family goals.
Sure.
And that's super noble. And this is then also where pathway and lots of online education programs are so cool because it allows women the opportunity to finish what they started.
Sure.
But one thing my sister regrets or regretted was doing that degree, because every time her husband was deployed and was in Afghanistan or Beirut or wherever, if he had been killed or severely disabled or whatever, and she had to be the breadwinner, sure, she had a degree, but she was like, what job do I get with a degree in Spanish?
Teaching? That would be the only thing I could think of,
Yeah,
right?
but you'd still have to get a teaching credential.
Oh, do you? Okay,
even.
so there you go. Yeah, so maybe that's not even it. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
not even just, it's just like,
there would still be
hey,
one
I'm
more
a
step.
good Spanish speaker.
Yeah, yeah. So is this person over here, and they just grew up there.
Yeah, from her experience, and then from my own, where although I'm okay with where I ended up with my degree, if I were to do it over again, I think I would maybe choose a different area.
Sure.
And so what I would recommend is select a bachelor's degree where you can actually make enough money to sustain a family.
Sure.
Male or female.
Sure. Sure.
And
I wonder if that's
then
lost on
maybe
people.
for your master's degree, that's where you get to be a little bit more passionate
Sure.
about what you're going to study.
Sure.
Because when it comes down to it, you've got to be able to make ends meet.
Yeah, again, I think that's maybe lost on people where they, hey, I'm really interested in this. And again, you do want to, you're going to spend a lot of time doing that job, so you want to like it. But again, is there a job? Or are you just studying things because I really this, it's really interesting to me. Great, take an online class. I don't know, learn something else.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do every day that's employable, right? That actually can bring in money. Again, we live in a economy that you have to, you're as valuable to the economy as what you can produce and make.
So find something that you like that also makes money.
Correct. Correct.
And I'm not talking like you have to be super rich,
No.
but you might just have to be maybe not taking your first choice for your biggest passion. And so, anyway, I've told many young adults that little bit of advice. That
I think that's great advice.
particularly females.
Sure.
Just really think hard about getting a job, and don't be too focused, girls, on a mom job.
Sure.
Because, for example, I originally wanted to be a doctor, and
Okay.
so I started out pre-med.
Sure.
And then at one point I thought, you know what, being a doctor is too demanding for a family life.
Sure.
And so I switched my major and went with this health and fitness thing. And then once I had kids and stuff, my OBGYN, she was also having kids. She worked 1 day a week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty conducive
Yeah.
to family life.
Yeah, 1 day a week is pretty good.
My kid's pediatrician works 2 days a week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Those are great mom jobs.
Sure. A little more flexibility than maybe most people realize.
Yes. And so don't limit yourself. And then my other thought is just get out there and go, because like my degree or my job I do now,
It has nothing to do with what you studied.
it has nothing to do with what I studied. And the internet didn't even exist when I started college.
Sure.
And so how was I supposed to know? I was supposed to have majored in something about online learning and all of that.
Sure. And so how would somebody, what would your advice be to somebody then? Is one of them just always learning? How did you get a job that you didn't necessarily have a degree in?
Yeah, I think that's just it. You more and more in the circles in which I work, we often say that most people don't even work in the field where they have a degree. Like at some point in fact, I went to dinner with a bunch of Pathway employees a few months ago, and they were all in our instructional research area, or no, institutional research.
Okay.
And we went around the table just talking about how they'd all gotten into their jobs and everything. I don't think any of them started out as like researchers and statisticians. Maybe one of them was like a actual like real mathy person. But one person was like into biology, and another person had done instructional technology, and like they all had these different backgrounds, but it was just like you get into a job and then you start, I don't know, finding different things, and you get different assignments, and then your job morphs and your organization changes and you acquire new skills.
Is that kind of where society is going? Where, because things are rapid. We got AI now, right? Obviously, no one's getting a degree in AI yet, because it's just barely.
Somebody will offer it.
I'm sure it's coming, but I'm saying today.
And it'll be all written by AI.
Sure, yeah. But we're at a point where it seems like things are continually progressing. And so to your point, the internet didn't exist and stuff like that. So is that what kind of employers are maybe looking for more, I guess, is just the ability to always be learning, to adapt and different things, hardworking, some of these basic things. Obviously, you do have to have skills, though, too, to your point with certificates and basic knowledge of how to use Microsoft Office or Google, or whatever these different things. I don't know. What do you see as far as that? I know we're getting a little tangent-ish, but it's still
this is a lot of what we're trying to do now with our students is we're providing them or giving them opportunities to earn a degree, a certificate or a degree. But a lot of what we're doing is educating them, but we're providing these degrees worldwide.
Yes.
Now, is a degree, let's talk applied health, for example, a degree in health and talking about communicable diseases or public health type health promotion programs, is it going to be the same worldwide?
Probably not.
No, it won't. So a lot of what we teach has to be very principle based so that students can find the application for their given area and space. And so it's the same then when you take like the skills that you're learning, and you've got to, even if, you have you've got your degree in health and fitness or whatever. Yeah. But, okay, maybe, I don't know, I used to write exercise programs or something.
Sure.
So maybe I could spin that skill of being able to create a program that combines different aspects of duration and time and that can meet a client's needs. Maybe I can spin that into a different business environment.
Sure.
So or let me give you another example. Our family history program is another one of the programs I work with. As you can imagine, how many jobs do you know about in family history outside of family search or ancestry or?
Yeah, not a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a challenge to be thinking about how do we deliver some of these programs and create job-ready skills around the world in developing nations. Yeah. So one thing we've done in this program with family history is focused on their research skills.
Okay.
And teaching them how to be good, thorough, cited, well-written researchers because that is a very transferable skill to so many different areas of application. So and recently, like Pathway has had students doing surveys for Gallup polls and going around and just interviewing people, and they've been teaching them how to do these cross sections and be thorough interviewers. And it's been just this really great way for those students to have and be employed, but they're also very reliable and do a really great job. And Gallup or other industries that have been utilizing them have been getting lots of really great research in a lot of areas that just have never been studied.
Sure. So it sounds like the Pathway program is really boiling it down to, instead of specific job, it's, like you said, researcher, which then can be applied to 30 different jobs, as opposed to I'm just focusing on, kind of the more specific you get, the less opportunities you have, right, for jobs and stuff. And,
so Pathway also has a whole team that is about job acquisition.
Okay.
And I know you've participated a bit in.
In fact, the lady that'll edit this video is a pathway.
Is she a pathway
So
student?
she's out in the Philippines. So,
Oh, I love it.
So anyhow,
Yeah, that's so awesome.
shout out to Camille. She'll see her name at
Good
some
job,
point.
Camille. It's just awesome. We partnered with a few different employers, third-party employers who are either employ students while they are studying, which probably, I think, now we have to rely on my memory. This could be bad, but I think like one of our top student concerns for when they stop out is financial.
Sure.
And if we can help by providing students with jobs, then they are much more likely to stay in school.
Sure, because they're
And-
making the money to keep paying for it.
Exactly.
Everything costs money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even just to feed their families.
Sure.
And
Sure.
we did some early studies. I think this was before the jobs team really got kicked off. Some of our students were skipping meals to afford internet or data.
Sure.
Data was really expensive.
Because you're paying per
Pay by the
megabyte.
gigabyte.
Yeah, gigabyte, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Just things that
Take for granted
we
here
totally
locally,
take for granted. And anyway, so the jobs team, they have a whole branch that is focused on helping students get jobs so they can stay in school. They have another group that works on helping students who have graduated. And then they have another group that is helping students who would like to get jobs develop better job acquisition skills.
Okay.
We have things like being able to type faster.
Sure.
They're trying to get them to 40 words a minute.
Yeah.
Or in some of our countries, although our students may be native English speakers, enunciation and accents where many of our employers are American, their accents are so heavy that it makes it difficult for the American population to interact with them.
Sure.
And so if they can help clear up their speech a bit more,
Sure.
refine it a little more so that it flows a little better,
Yeah.
then it makes them more employable for the American employers. And then it also then drives more American money into these impoverished areas which can stimulate their economies as well. So it should be able to do good things.
Yeah.
All in all.
And I'm sure it is. So what are you seeing? You say you've been doing this for a little while now, right? Do you get to see, I know obviously you're more on the top administrative, so you're not necessarily boots on the ground kind of thing, or maybe you have those interactions. I know you did go to like a tour.
I went to Africa
right?
last
You did
summer,
that.
yeah.
I don't know. Talk to me about some of the things that you've seen firsthand with this program.
This past summer, I went to Africa. We went to Zimbabwe, Malawi, and South Africa. And specifically, I went with our applied health program, and we were going to try and find out if our applied health program was actually meeting the needs of our students to find jobs. We met with government officials in those countries. Did they see our degrees as first off, would they even recognize our degrees, and would they employ students with the skills that we were developing? And what types of jobs did they think our students could get in their countries with our degrees? And
I love that, by the way. The fact that you're actually I'm not sure a lot of colleges, hey, here's a degree. You figure out the job part. I like that you're like, hey, is this actually working? Because again, why spin your wheels? You're not trying to, this isn't a make money kind of thing. This is we want to actually benefit people. That's what I'm hearing, I guess. So anyhow, sorry, keep going. But
that's the whole focus.
Yeah.
Really the whole focus of, so, I mentioned earlier that Ensign College is all about job-ready, applied skills. And the portion of BYU-Idaho that I am with and that is partnered with Pathway, we are also that same applied job-ready skills. So we have that same kind of focus that Ensign College does in that sense. But yes, that's exactly it. And that is our entire focus in all of the programs that we offer, is trying to make sure. I just had a conversation just this week that with our dean, that in a meeting, that's what we need to make sure is happening, that we've got to be talking about the job ready skills.
Yeah.
We are going to have an opportunity in May where all of the pathway area managers are going to be coming to the United States, and some of them are in the United States too, but they'll be coming together, and we're putting together a gathering with our programs at BYU-Idaho. And I'm really excited about this because it's the first time that we've been able to bring these two groups together.
Yeah.
And we want to find out, like, what's working for the students in your areas. And, like, essentially we have boots on the ground for the whole world.
Yeah, you do. Again, the church is in a unique spot because, again, it's so global, right?
Yes.
And so it's able to cross territories and countries that's amazing.
And then we'll have an opportunity also to help showcase a little bit more what each of our programs and what the skills are and the jobs that we think that they should be able to obtain. And I'm really looking forward to the feedback and the back and forth with those individuals, because with the area manager in the Africa South area, we just had the best time and learned so much from her. And I know she felt so invigorated from our visit as well. So it's just really great to get to connect with people and get to work together.
And so going back to, I probably threw you off a little bit, but going back to that Africa trip, what some of the things did you see then on that as you were looking at?
Oh, goodness. So many things. Like, it was life-changing. I was a little scared to go.
Sure.
Because this was the first time I had ever traveled in the developing world. And as a child, just even seeing, like, the Christian Children's Fund or the care commercials of starving kids, those were really, would give me nightmares as a kid. I don't want to see human suffering.
No, of course.
Nobody does.
Nobody does, yeah.
But I think the reason that this trip didn't feel, I was still a little scared to go, and I went.
But you overcame that fear.
I did. And I think a huge part of that was that I knew that I was part of having something to offer them.
Yeah.
Like, it was twofold.
Sure.
It was both education and the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Sure.
And those two things offer so much power, especially together, to alleviate suffering throughout the world.
Sure.
And I don't know that it would have been quite as, I don't know, like, I don't think the experience would have been as enjoyable otherwise.
Sure. But
it was just incredible to get to meet. We got to meet some of our students in every place that we went.
Yeah.
In Zimbabwe, quick story, we met with probably like 9 or 10 female students, and this was in the middle of the difficulties of last year.
Sure, okay.
And they had a lot of difficulties, and they were, at one point, let me just say that I think most Africans in general are quite soft-spoken and very humble and just so loving, and they're just amazing. Yeah. And these women, they got talking to each other more than talking to us.
Sure.
And so we started hearing, like, the real story, like the real feedback.
Sure.
And as they were, like, just letting it all out as they talked to each other. And they probably were getting a little on the complaining side.
Sure.
But one of my colleagues, her name is Adriana, and she Actually, she was living here in Lehi. She's in Saratoga now.
Okay.
But she's from Argentina.
Okay.
And she had been a pathway student and then transferred to BYU-Idaho, got her degree, and then went on to BYU and got a master's degree. And now she's an employee as a designer. And she's like the dream of
exactly
probably what every student would love to do. And at one point, she like stops and she's, "Sisters, you have everything you need in this room."
Yeah.
And she just stopped them all dead. And she said, "You have each other." And she said, "You have this skill and you have this skill. You are good at, this. You are good at this," because they had each been talking about different things. And she just united them because I think in a lot of ways they were expecting maybe Pathway to do everything for them. But no, you have everything you need right here in this room. You can work together. You can start your own businesses. You can rely on each other. And she was 100% right. And it was just like this awesome moment. And
kind of empowering to them, I guess.
Very empowering, especially coming from another female who also came from a developing country and who it would have been different coming. I couldn't say that as a white female.
Sure.
And definitely the two white guys next to me could not have said that.
Sure. There's certain things that, you wouldn't understand me. You're talking from a place of you not understand. And I get it.
Yeah. It was just so incredible that she was there in that moment. But it was like I learned so much from that too, that our students really do have the skills and abilities, and they have each other, and they are going to be successful. We are giving them tools and knowledge and skills, but we can't do everything.
It still requires some creativity, some risk-taking with entrepreneurship, but you're there to hold their hand or give them that base. Hey, here's the skills, but you're still ultimately, we don't know your village. We don't know what's needed there. We don't know you gotta, and maybe that is what the gospel does in general, right? Is it teaches us principles, right? Correct principles, let them govern yourselves, right? So I think that's maybe what Pathways is doing. Hey, here's more principles. Here's how to work Excel, how to do whatever.
Yeah.
But then you have to apply it, because we can't govern you in every situation, because nobody can get into that village and know everything, and probably wouldn't even be wise for me to try, because I wouldn't understand your situation. And I love that.
It was really powerful. There are still things that I hope that we will do more as a system, as the Pathway ecosystem. We talk about different student associations and communities. Like as a BYU alumnus, we have the BYU Alumni Association.
Sure.
We're working on establishing those types of things. And if we can maybe eventually get local chapters where students can mentor each other or
network with each
other. Because networking is so huge. So actually one thing I wanted to say was it's been since 2009 and we're in 2026. So we're 16 and a half years-ish along. And sure, we're getting close to 100,000 students, but I still feel like we are just at the start of so many things. Yet, yes, we have come so far. Yeah. But it just feels like there's always something new that we're having to tackle or just do in a different manner. At one time we were doing semester courses. Now we do 7-week block courses. Okay. 2-ish years ago, AI exploded. So now we're trying to redevelop all of our curriculum to assess students in a different way so that they're not just putting their assignments into AI and then copying and pasting the tool that they get out. Sure. We need to assess the process, not just the product. And we need to teach them to use it responsibly, the same way that you have to learn how to use a calculator after you've already memorized your times tables and all those AI has really thrown academia into a, I don't know, tailspin.
Sure, because it can do, well, again, the world's changing rapidly.
Rapidly.
And I think learning how to use technology is always, why keep using an axe if you have a chainsaw now, right?
Exactly.
But learn how to use the chainsaw, right? Because the chainsaw is more dangerous, and so is AI, right? It's more dangerous in the sense that you could be lazy with it, right? But it also can amplify a person immensely, right? And so there is that. Speak to where you see Pathway going over the next 5-10 years. What things do you see on the horizon? Where do you think this goes? Give me the kind of the future here for a second.
So one of the things that we're always having in the back of our mind is planning and scaling, like always thinking toward 1 million students. Okay. And that's, I don't know when.
Sure.
But.
And you're at 100,000 now, you said, right?
We're getting pretty close. I think maybe this year we'll hit that mark.
Yep.
I think last year we topped out in the high 80,000s, maybe in the 90s.
Sure.
I don't know. I never know exactly where the number ends up. But yeah, I think we're getting right around that 100,000 mark. And you okay, for example, as we open up Portuguese, that now means we're getting close to 100,000 mostly with English.
Yeah.
Okay, so we turn on Portuguese. That opens up a whole nother...
People in Brazil.
Yes.
And Portugal, I guess.
And Portugal. And Mozambique.
Sure, there we go.
And
sure.
There are a lot of Portuguese-speaking parts of Africa. And I don't know if you've heard this, but I think it was Elder Bednar, I'm not sure who, but said that French will quickly become the most spoken language in
it was
the
him. I
church.
remember that quote, actually. Yeah. Speaking about Africa, I guess there's a lot of African that speak French.
Yes, a lot of, and just, so when I was in Zimbabwe, we went and attended this branch on Sunday. It was a branch of 600 member branch.
That's a large branch.
Okay, it's a branch because there's so few priesthood holders.
Sure.
But since the time I was there, it's doubled in size. And they're just baptizing like crazy. But when we were talking to some senior missionaries while we were there at a job fair, and they said that the Harare, Zimbabwe mission was slated to baptize 4,000 members in 2025.
Wow.
Okay. My mission in Italy, you're going to laugh at this because you served in Mexico.
It's true, yes.
But our goal each year was 200.
Yeah.
And usually we were around 100.
Okay. Yeah. And we were 200 to 300 a month.
Exactly. And you take 4,000 and divide that by 50 weeks.
Yeah.
That is so many. And so and let's just say the Pathway program, the numbers are staggeringly high.
Wow.
They have built a direct portal, a self-referral portal for students who are non-members who take Pathway Connect. And because they're still required to take a religion course as part of it. And in Africa, most countries are Christian.
Yeah.
And they don't have the same stigma that we do here domestically, that the LDS faith is not considered Christian.
Sure.
And so they do see it as a Christian and they are flocking in droves to do Pathway Connect. So many people that we met with who actually were already educated or who had jobs, we would tell them about our program, and then they would say, and when we were done, they'd be like, "Hey, could I sign up for this?" And we're like, "Yes."
Yeah, because it's not restricted to just members only.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And I remember my friend that I work with, her telling me a few years back, "Melissa, this pathway is going to educate Africa."
Yeah.
Not just the church members, but the continent. They don't have enough seats in their own schools.
Yeah, and these people are hungry to learn.
They want to learn, and they are impoverished. They need to find ways to improve their situations.
Yeah.
And so education is a major key there.
Yeah.
And
again, practical education, not education just for the,
Yeah.
that's what I love about,
not philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Again. Yeah, exactly. Philosophy. It's practical education. How do I make life better for this? How do I actually do a job? That's what I like about it. I like very practical applications. I don't like theoretical. We're on Earth. We're supposed to be like doing stuff. Enough theoretical. Let's just get to work. And so I love that.
Yeah. No, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I took it from you. It sounds like the world, obviously Pathway has a great future. I think it's going to continue to grow. And perhaps right now there's a lot of growing pains. You said last year was really hard. I would assume all of this is laying the groundwork because it does take time. And I think the Lord makes us, he loves effort. And he wants us in the ground. Like he's not just going to give it to us. We're supposed to actually work for it and learn how to do it. And so you go and then you tweak and then you tweak and then you tweak because again, you're learning what works and what doesn't.
For sure.
What didn't work, and by that time it will work, really would be my guess.
Yes. When you think about my daughter Braun, having served in Peru, in some of the areas where she served, some people spoke Quechua, which they didn't even speak Spanish.
Yeah.
For some people, or maybe they spoke Quechua and Spanish. But English was like even a bigger stretch. They were doing well to speak Spanish.
Sure.
By being able to offer in more languages, we're going to get a lot of people that we would not have previously. So going back to the question, do we see things going? The whole job frontier portion, that is really huge. There's just so much emphasis on figuring out how best to serve students and help them get jobs, help them to stay in school. It's like that is definitely like a major focus. I would assume more employability for students over time and increased growth of the church, like just say exponentially. What do I know? But
you probably know a lot.
I don't know in that sense of we're just going to be like.
Sure.
But like and I can never remember the exact figures, but like a student who refers themselves, a non-member student who refers themselves to and says, I want to learn more. Yes, and Pathway has the built-in gatherings as part of their religion.
So you're really being integrated into, because that's one of the hard things about any new member is the culture. How do I get in? Because I already had my life before, and so now they're just probably so much easier to integrate then, right? Because it's just part of schooling. And then they're also bettering their lives, and so they associate that. And the gospel in general should better somebody's life, right? Yeah. But now add in the educational component, that all makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
It's just like really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime we get the reports on how the program is helping missionary efforts, that's like really like more than education. That to me is where it's really at.
Yeah.
And I remember back before. This was, I think, back when Elder Kim B. Clark was president of BYU-Idaho. I remember him in some type of meeting, all employee meeting, or maybe it was a faculty meeting or something, but I remember him getting very solemn at one point and just saying that he had felt very strongly that this Pathway program was here to help build the kingdom and usher in the return of our Savior. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, and it's now become, we talk about that a whole lot more. And
you're seeing how it's actually happening. You're seeing the logistical reason, like how so it's not just education you're spreading, you are spreading the gospel, and probably one of the best ways to do it, actually, frankly. But
so it's a really, I don't know the best word to describe it, but it's just an incredible mission that we have. It's I feel really lucky, privileged, blessed.
You're doing a great work, right?
To be a part of it. Like what why do I get to do this?
Sure, sure.
And that's where I'm here, and that's what I'm doing right now. And so it's great.
I love that. Yeah, you talk about, we all want to do a job that obviously makes money, but also is benefiting society, has meaning. We don't just work for money. We want to have it have purpose. And it sounds like you've definitely found that with your job, right? Yep. Where you're able to make money, but doing something you're part of something large, and it's doing a lot of good. So good job.
Well, thanks. Yeah, one thing I really to do with our instructors and our graders is make sure that when we hold meetings with them, making sure that they get that vision of that they are part of it too.
Yes.
Because every single person that's part of this larger organization is touching a student's life in some manner. And it's not just one person doing this. It's like a whole bunch of employees and missionaries and different volunteers. And then you got all of our third-party employers who are also part of that mission too.
Sure.
It's just a very collective effort of dedicated individuals.
Sure.
So it's just really...
Love that. We've been talking for a while, so we should probably end, but we could do a part 2, I guess, at some point, because I could talk to you about this all day. I do very much, I'm slightly jealous of your job, so it's one of those, I could easily, I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
And so it's fun to talk about, and I like what the church is doing. I like what BYU is doing. Thank you for coming on, and thanks for talking to me, and I appreciate you coming on. So
thank you for the invitation. Yeah, and there are so many options out there for education, and I would just encourage people to, if for some reason you ever didn't feel like you could do education, higher education, or you stopped out for some reason, or it seemed too hard, in Utah, we have what's called the Utah Education Initiative. And you could just type that in, Google it, Utah Education Initiative. But it essentially is this major collaboration. It's headed up by Pathway, but it's not just to do Pathway programs.
Sure.
It's basically to get Utahns in general access to whatever education makes the most sense for them.
Okay.
And that's it. To get whatever makes the most sense for them.
Sure.
And so if you're a member of the church, then you should have a member in your state, potentially your ward, who could assist you with that. So if you're in the Lehi South Stake, that's me. And even if you're not a member of the church, if you do have a member friend, you could ask about it, or you could just get on and Google it. But there are so many resources that can just show you like cost breakdown or different schools. But we have trade schools, we have full-blown universities, and we have community colleges, and there are just so many options. So whether you already have a degree, and maybe your degree was in philosophy and you've never been able to get a job, and you really want to upskill and get something, it's never too late.
Yeah.
So.
Love it.
Okay.
Thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining us on Roots and Branches of Lehi. I hope today's story helped you feel a little more connected to the people who make up our community. Remember, every person here has a unique story, and together, we're what makes Lehi. If you know someone who would be a great fit for this podcast, please fill out the form in the show notes so we can reach out and schedule an interview. We'd love to hear from you. A big thank you to our sponsors, the Work Harding Home Mortgage Team and Play Harding Nightly Vacation Rentals, for supporting this show and helping us bring our community closer together. Until next time, keep growing those roots and reaching out to your branches. Take care.